Welcome to the Real Freedom Podcast, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Real Freedom Podcast, where we talk about building wealth, gaining time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. And today I'm excited to talk about one of the deals that our team did. We recently closed on a 25 unit properties, as a 16 unit with a commercial space and then another 8 unit building. And we were able to do that without any of our own money out of pocket for the closing. So we wanted to talk about that a little bit, how it came to be, how we found the deal and process and how it works. And so I'm joined today by my partners in crime, Justin Rademacher and Mike Gengler. And this is kind of a culmination of a lot of conversation and strategy to get this to come together for our first one. And it's certainly not going to be our last one. So we thought we would just share with you how this came to be and take it from there. So Mike, Justin, glad to have you, and just share a little bit about why we decided we wanted to go multifamily route here.
For me, and I know, Mike, you and I, talked about this. It's all about not being transactional, right? Real estate is more of a transactional business, and it's more about creating passive income through real estate and creating that legacy. And this is one avenue to do that. There's various different avenues that you can do that, but this is just one avenue and a very lucrative avenue. And so that's why it's exciting for me. We've talked about passive income for a long time through real estate, and it's been a journey to get here. And now it's just exciting to see it actually come to fruition. So for me, I'll speak for me. I won't speak for anybody else. The passive income is really the exciting part here about building a legacy for the future, for my family and other agents.
For sure. One of the biggest aspects is that passive income. After we started working with investors and seeing, what they were looking for in deals and watching how that was working out for them, it only made sense for ourselves to get our own properties as well, so we could partake in that passive income as well. So this is very exciting to have our own deal culminated here and starting to see that cash flow at the first of the month now. Multifamily specifically, just because we're looking to do, more streams. It's, if you get a single family home, you've got one stream of income. If you got a quad, you get 4 streams. So we jumped right in with a 25 unit. We've got 25 streams of income, even though it's just from one deal, one transaction. So just diversifying the number of streams of income you get right off the bat by going multifamily. And with the market being where it's at right now for home purchasing and the rental market for rental rates places, it's something that we believe has a long-term future. That's going to grow. Rental rates are going to continue to rise, it looks like. And you get also, the benefit of appreciation of the building. So while the passive income is great for the present, that appreciation on the building and the properties is great for the future.
And I think too, one of the things that we've talked about is we are real estate agents. We help investors purchase properties. Mm-hmm. And so, that's kind of the active income. And so like you guys alluded to, the passive income, we'll actively continue to work with investors. And then at this time, as we find deals that we feel like would be a good fit for us and a good match for what we want to do, now it gives us an opportunity to passively be involved in real estate at the same time. And so we're working on the active income and the passive income. And so, yeah, this has been the beginning of, a year and a half long journey of conversations. And so the one thing that I want to start out too is by sharing, this isn't something that just happened overnight. And so when we share, we were able to purchase a 25 unit building without our own money up front. This is a long time coming, and we've been working with investors for a while. And a lot of times we see great deals and we say, hey, it would be really nice if we were able to invest in that, or it'd be really nice if we've, had a partner to invest with us, because I feel like as a team, we do a pretty good job identifying good deals. And we've been doing this for, coming up to close to 2 years now, analyzing deals, identifying great deals. And so it's taken time to build relationships with people, with lead sources who bring us deals, with lenders, and having the track record with these folks to be able to pull a deal like this together. So do you guys want to jump in and chat about the work that's happened over the last 18 to 24 months to kind of earn the right to be able to put this deal together.
Yeah, like you said, 18 months ago, we started working with our first investors, and I think almost exactly 18 months ago, I closed on my first investment deal. It was sometime in April of 21. So it's been a long road of figuring out what good deals are, what investors are looking for, learning the lingo and the languages, and learning what to watch out for. And in addition to the whole process of what makes a successful deal go through. While each deal is special in its own way, there's a lot of similarities in each closing that we've learned about and gone through. And so when we get to this deal, we had a couple of hiccups on this deal, but it was something that 18 months ago might have thrown us for a loop and we might not have known how to handle. But in this case, it was okay. I've seen something similar or something just like this, and we were able to move forward and get the deal to the finish line. But yeah, it's a very educational 18 months, and we've gotten an education on the go, if you will, as we've worked with our investors and found them deals and are able to build their portfolios. And now we can start building ours as well.
Yeah. And to piggyback off that, because you're exactly right, Mike. Not only is it us learning the lingo, right? That was the first step for sure. Learning what does cash on cash mean? How is that calculated? Things of that nature. But the next part of that evolutionary process was really figuring out, like, not all investors are looking for the exact same thing, right? So some of them are looking for cash flow, like what is that cash flow every single month? And that's all that they're interested in. Others are specifically just interested in that cash on cash percentage. And some investors don't really care about either or. They're just going to be looking for the appreciation and the tax benefits of being able to write some of the their buildings off. So figuring out which investor is going to go down which avenue also has given me a different perspective of being able to take a look at, like, it doesn't all have to be about just cash flow or all just cash on cash. It can also be a combination of all of those things. And this particular deal is a perfect example of that. It's a great cash on cash, a cash flow as well, and the appreciation opportunity down the road, for a cash out refinance is really, really strong. So sometimes you'll find these deals that have one or a multitude of all of these put together, and just figuring out what investors are looking for. I mean, that's been a 18-month journey. So it's been educational, like you said, Mike, very, very educational.
And I think we kind of had talked in theory about how we wanted to leap into partnership deals. The partnership conversation has really been about 6 months in process, as we've looked at, like you said, we've helped a lot of investors invest in various properties, from single family to fourplexes. There's some short-term rentals, some bigger stuff within the last 6 months that we've been doing. And so we've seen deals come along, and we found one that we thought was a great fit. There's a lot of our investors many of them are out of state, and we've talked a lot about the Rochester, Minnesota area as being a spot that people want to be in. There's a lot of money being pumped in to fix up Rochester. They have this destination medical center, kind of 20-year vision project where they want it to really be the premier medical facility in the world with the Mayo Clinic. And so we knew the Rochester area was an area that was exciting for investors, and a lot of people out of state like the price points of what you can get for what you have to spend here in Minnesota. And so we ran across this deal from a wholesaler that has sent us some deals in the past. We hadn't closed on a deal with him, but at the same time, there were a few that were worth looking at. And so we found this deal, and it was in Stewartville, which is just outside of Rochester. And so we kind of liked that area as a whole. I grew up in southern Minnesota, small town Minnesota, so I can relate to that. And the numbers looked good, and we saw an opportunity. And so we decided, hey, this deal looks like this might be the one for us to rally around and jump in on together. And it was big enough that it was worth the time it was going to take to figure out our first deal, right?
Analyzing deals for the last 18 months, we started, with a lot smaller stuff. It was single families, it was duplexes a lot. And then eventually we took that next step into quads. And now we're looking at 4 units in one building. And, this past maybe 6-9 months, we've started to look at some bigger commercial, multifamily, getting into 5+ units, and we've helped some investors close on 8, 9, 10 unit buildings. And so when this one came across and we're seeing 25 units, the numbers were all bigger, but it wasn't anything that we hadn't dealt with before. And so we had that comfortability of knowing, okay, yeah, there's more units than we've done before, but it's no different than an 8-unit apartment building. It's just got a bigger number on the front end.
Yeah, and to clarify, like I mentioned, so we had the wholesaler was somebody, a relationship that we've had in the past. We've worked with that person in the past. The investors that we had discussions with were investors that we've had relationships with in the past and have worked with in the past. And then the lender that we used is a lender that we have had a relationship with and had other investors do deals with in the past. So I think that's the key for people, looking up saying, how do I do this? How do I start from scratch and get involved? It's really been 18 months of relationships and conversations and, stair step failing forward as we go, to have the relationships where we can say, okay, here's the deal. Let's piece together the investors, the wholesalers, the lenders, and put it all together. It isn't something that just happened overnight. The fact that we got a 25 unit building for us together happened pretty quickly, but it's been all this time that we've put into building credibility, understanding a good deal, building relationships. That's all below the water stuff that you see. If we kind of use that iceberg analogy of what you see above versus what you see below, we've been working below water for a long time to have something like this come together. In terms of how we found the deal, we talked with a few investors. So I think that was the piece. We won't touch on this a whole lot, but we ran numbers. We kind of looked at what's going to be something that's attractive for investors, put that together, talked with some investors. Okay, here's what this deal could look like, and then put that together. And so each deal is different. So I think that's where we're happy to walk through with people if you have questions about, maybe how to structure deals. But for us, it was just kind of looking at, okay, here's the numbers, here's the returns, here's the cash flow, what makes sense, and how do we want to put that together. And then we formed a business entity together and put everything in there. So that's kind of the logistical piece of how the deal came together. For the three of us, we came up with, okay, what's going to be part of the due diligence here? Who's doing what's going to be our roles? The nice thing is we have 3 people. And so the work can be made lighter by having 3 people. I would say kind of the downside is we have 3 people. And so from a roles and responsibilities point, we kind of had to figure out how to do that together. And we're going to learn and revamp things as we go. But do you guys want to maybe just kind of talk about the breakdown of roles a little bit, about how we structured that through the due diligence process?
The roles were kind of learning on the fly since this is the first one for us. It was figuring out who was going to do each step between the 3 of us. We've each been through enough deals personally, as an agent and helping other investors through the process, that we knew what needed to be done. We then needed to figure out who was going to do that. And then we also have the added step of, we have a partner in this, so we need to relay all of that information to that partner. That partner is bringing the money, so they're going to have a say in this, so we need to have that communication going both ways on that. So in this deal specifically, I was the person that was dealing with the partner, so my main role would be dealing with the partner and then dealing with the wholesaler.
Really kind of the agent role.
Yep,
in a normal transaction.
Role. Yep.
And I think different opportunities, the roles may change, right? So we created a list of every single thing that needs to be done in this deal. And then what we did is we went through that list and just assigned, job 1, job 2, and job 3. On this particular deal, job 1 as the agent was Mike Gengler, having the relationship with the wholesaler and also having the relationship with the investor. And so one thing that we found with this is it may change. Our next deal, maybe Mike Swenson has the relationship with the investor that is going to be investing, and maybe he's the agent role. So there's a little bit of fluidity there. But I think the most important thing here is really just getting that list together of everything that needs to be done for your due diligence and then figuring out, how many people do you have in this deal? Is it one? Is it two? Is it three? What is it? And then breaking that down.
Yeah. And so we've also got 2 people here in Minnesota and 1 person in Florida. So just physically, obviously we're not going to have Justin be doing inspections and walkthroughs. That doesn't make sense. And
I'd
so,
rather not.
yeah, you got out of here for a reason. So, and so stuff that can be done online and reviewed, that role fit Justin better for this deal. Now that's going to be exactly reversed when we're closing on something in Florida. It's not going to make sense for Mike and I to go down there and walk through something, but
if it's in the winter, it might make sense.
It might make sense.
That's true.
Justin, we'll take the boots on the ground because we're going to come down.
I'll just keep doing what I was doing before. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could get a spring training closing time, that'd be perfect.
I'll work on that
down there. So, but yeah, Justin was able to do a lot on that back end for us, with reviewing leases, really honing in on the financials on this and getting that stuff set up. So when I'm having conversations with either the wholesaler or the investor, I haven't had to do all the nitty gritty, moving all the numbers around, verifying all of the leases. I can just go in and talk to Justin real quick and say, how did everything look? We've got a Google Drive for everything. So all the information is there for me to access as well. It worked out really slick to just have that one central location, the Google Drive, for all of the information to be, so that we could all edit the same documents, see the same documents, and be on the same page with everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then another, vendors are a huge thing as well. You're going to need a lender, which a lot, Mike and I both had contact with the lender in this case, but Mike's finding the lender, Mike Swenson. Mike worked on the insurance, that's a big piece of it. Insurance quotes, I'll say, for a lot of stuff you might have like your go-to. Insurance, I've found, is one of those things where you're going to want to get a lot of quotes every time, because different insurance agencies work better for different types of properties. And so what might work better for one deal isn't going to be the same for the next one. And so to really get that best price, which in our case, we had quotes anywhere from $9,000 to like $20,000. That's a big number to change. And so, obviously, you want to make sure the coverage is still there, but making sure some extra work up front can almost cut in half, or more than cut in half, that expense for us. So
just quick to go back to the insurance thing. Every company has their niche. And I think that's the key, that you were alluding to, Mike, is this building might be the perfect fit for the insurer that we went with. And then we find another property 6 months from now, and it's just totally outside of their wheelhouse. We reached out to a handful of insurance folks, and then a couple of them just said, hey, this really isn't a fit for us, but I'll refer you to somebody else that we think might be a fit. And so it's finding that right fit with the right property based on location and age and all the other questions that you have to answer. We had a commercial space in there, which, throws a little bit of a wrench in it for some people. So I think that's where doing the due diligence on the insurance side, finding a bunch of options to select the best one, because some of them, it's just not a fit for them. It's not in their wheelhouse. Just like if somebody asked me to do tours of downtown condos in Minneapolis, that's really not my wheelhouse. And so I know that and say, hey, why don't you work with somebody else instead? So it's kind of along the same lines for the insurance. When you get into the bigger stuff like that, making sure that you've got the right fit with the right property.
Couldn't have said it better. And that goes kind of for this next one as well, as an inspection. We mentioned we've had a lot of previous relationships that we've used, and same here for the inspection. This is someone that we've used in the past, and we know that they've got a division that works with commercial buildings. They go through things that have, multiple buildings on a property and, multiple units within that. So having that previous relationship and then just being able to set that up, we were able to get, what we thought was a quality inspection. Would always recommend getting an inspection for these types of deals. We found, multiple things at that point, which then set up the next step, which was inspection negotiations. Now we were under a little bit of a time crunch to get the closing done initially. And so some of these steps blurred together a little bit. And so, we're, even with having 18 months and doing I don't know, Mike, how many deals have we done now? 45, 50 deals between the three of us. Like we're still learning. Like we definitely learned a lot on this deal, having it be our first deal and doing a lot of these things for ourselves. But we ended up having a negotiation for the inspection and a negotiation because close got pushed due to something on the sell side. And those actually ended up blurring together, which might not have been the best for us, but learning to just differentiate those two things and get a better outcome for ourselves or our investors in the future. We're like I said, constantly learning. And so we want to make sure that, each deal we try to learn something new. And so definitely learned more than one thing on this deal for sure.
Other things, we had to talk through, because this was our first deal together, how the business entity was going to work, how the entity was going to work with the investor partners. And so things like that we'll probably be able to move forward on more quickly in the future, but we had to have a lot of discussion about that. And then two, working with our investors to make sure that they understand the business entity, they're on board with it, providing them updates as well. So, another thing that we had to go through was choosing a property manager. We had talked through with a few property managers a few months back. And so we'd had those conversations to where we felt like, okay, we kind of know somebody who this might be a good fit for. So to be able to call them up and say, hey, is this something that would be a good fit for you? That's months of relationships and conversations. I had talked with that property manager 4, 5, 6 times about different things before we even got to, hey, here's our building. And so that was a relationship we were able to call upon when we needed to. And then kind of the flurry leading up to closing was, getting the bank accounts set up, finalizing the insurance, finalizing the business entities. And then, we had to get the deposits transferred. We did have somebody who's working on site, doing the property management. And so working with them to be able to pass off who's going to do what moving forward, let them know the quirks and the nuances of the building, because this building's like 150 years old. And so there's a lot of nuances. I should say the big building's about 150 years old. So working through that. And so then we met on site, walked through the building together. Okay, here's what's going to happen. And then really our strategy is we want to, pour some money into it. That was the financials that we looked at ahead of time. Some of these units need some updating. And so being able to update that. And I think that's the other key too, is having that exit strategy or having that exit plan ahead of time. We didn't just look at this based on the numbers of here's where it's at today. We looked at here's where it's at today and here's where we want it to go. And to be able to share that vision with the investors is really important so that they get behind that, because the investors are going to want their money back. And so showing them here's what that's going to look like so that they can get their money back is as important as the returns as well. It's, can I get my money back out here, and when can that happen so that we can go do other things?
It sounds like you're talking about the investor getting their money back. Just to clarify on that, the money that they put in, the actual cash, the liquid asset, is what they're looking to get out. And the sooner they can get that out, the better. One, for the investor themselves, they feel confident that we were able to bring them a good deal. They were able to get that cash back and still have the property in their name and that passive income coming in for them. And two, it works out well for us. If we've done a great deal with an investor and they've gotten that money back, well, we know they're getting that money back because we're involved in that deal. Let's have another deal lined up and ready to go for that investor, knowing that they're getting that cash back. And now we can start this whole process all over again.
Yeah. And then, I think for us, the bigger vision of where we want this to go is we want to have passive investors that see, okay, here's a group of people that understand investment properties, have helped investors purchase a bunch of properties. They know what a good deal looks like. They're able to be boots on the ground. And when I say boots on the ground, that doesn't mean necessarily us physically being on the ground. We work through good property management relationships. So even if it's not something in Minnesota or Florida, we can find good property managers. We've worked with property managers to know what are the questions to ask, what does the compensation look like, and how do we want to structure that? And so a passive investor can come in and say, okay, I don't necessarily know a lot about real estate, or I don't want to take the time to go figure out and do all this stuff myself. Now I can partner with somebody who's been there, done that, has a lot of experience, and put my money to use and have it not tie up the day. I was there today going and setting up a different bank account. I was there, taking calls, answering emails, responding to things, so the investors don't have to do that. And so the goal is to be able to provide passive investment and opportunities for investors where we do a lot of the legwork, because it's the industry we're in, it's what we're good at, it's what we know how to do, and then they can take their money, put it with us, and then be able to get the returns that they want. So any closing comments or thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great, this is a great segue into, I'm on Facebook fairly often, and I see a lot of individuals out there trying to do exactly what we just did, right? And what they're doing is they're just blindly reaching out to individuals saying, hey, do you want to joint venture with me and on this? And two things that you really need in order to make this work. And we've touched on both of them, but just to kind of summarize it, one, you definitely need the relationships, right? You have to build those relationships, because people do business with people who they like, know, and trust. Right. So when you're blindly reaching out to somebody on Facebook or whatever other avenue that you're using, the likelihood that you're going to get, you might get a partnership, but is it the right partnership? And then the other thing too is you're going to need to find out, does that investor want to passively invest, or do they want to be involved in the deal, right? Our value that we bring to our investors is our expertise in the last 18 months that we've built, building relationships and also building our knowledge and exponentially increasing our learning curve. That's our value, right? And so we're able to save our investors time, where they can take their money and continue to invest that while they do what they normally do on their daily basis, right? So you have to find that value proposition as well. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. I would say I would sum it up by doing the relationships first, and then finding out who wants to passively invest. That's the best way to make this happen.
We want to find people that we can help grow their portfolios. And if you are interested in that, great. We'd love to help you out. If you want to go through the process of building all those relationships yourself so that you can have 100% of that deal, that's also a possibility as well. But basically what we're offering here is we've built all the relationships. We've gone through a year and a half of investment deals. We've made the mistakes already, and we've been learning for the past 2 years what this does and what this can do for people. And so if you want to take the shortcut and just jump right in and be closing deals sooner rather than later with a competent team, then that's how we can help you. I've got an investor personally who's looking to get over 200 units within the next 18 months. And that's the type of power we offer, because we have that knowledge and skill set to do that. And so jump on the fast train and join us, and we can help build your portfolio.
And I mean, we'd love to help people navigate this process too. I mean, obviously we're looking for passive investors, and yet at the same time, we want to help people like us going through this process, because, the podcast has been all about helping people build wealth, gain financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. And so we want to do that. If you are interested in, working alongside us and having us work with you on deals, you can go to the website Elite Advantage Properties HQ. So HQ for headquarters, eliteadvantagepropertieshq.com. There's a lot of information on there, just good resources too, if you're interested in how this works, how real estate investing, passive investing works. Go check that out. There's also a spot to book a call if you want to meet with us and talk about that and see what happens next. But excited for the future ahead. Thanks, Mike and Justin, for going through this with me and together. And I think that's the power of the team right there. We all want to go to the same place together. And so the saying that I've said a lot is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's what we're looking to do, is to go together and do something big together. So appreciate you guys and all that you do for the team, and excited about where we're going to take this.